I'm Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. I'll give people a moment to file in. Make sure we're working here. Always takes a minute for YouTube to get started, but I think we should be okay. Let me know if you can see this. Post a comment in the chat. I think we should be working. Let's see. Oh, it says I'm live. But are we? Yes, I think we are live. All right. All right, fantastic. Today, I want to show you something very simple you can do even before you speak that will make you feel a lot more confident in your conversations. Ovlogs, nice to see you there. Or hi, Ozabek from Uzbekistan. Very nice. George, nice to see you there, right on time. And Dran, what's up? Drew, nice to see you there. I want to get right into this at the beginning of the video. It probably won't be that long of a video, but I hope you enjoy it. And then you can always come back and watch it later if you missed the beginning. But if you have any questions, let me know, and I will do my best to answer those as we go. So I want to talk about this. I thought I had just an interesting idea while I'm working on my book that I could demonstrate something here for you guys. So this is you can just call it like a board, or kind of a thin board, or even a block of wood. A block of wood. I'll just put this up here. A block. So a wood block, or a block of wood, just a little piece. I sometimes build things around my house, and this is an old piece that I didn't need anymore. And we think about, like, we have a piece of wood like this, and if I want to break off, like, maybe I have like a small piece of it, and I can just remove a small piece of the wood like that. So we still have the regular block of wood, but now we have this little chip of wood over here. Just you can call this a wood chip. Sometimes people take these and you might take an old tree or something and cut it up or grind it into many little pieces, and then you get wood chips. So people use these in their gardens or put them around trees, that kind of thing. But, whoop, excuse me. So we have a little wood chip right here. And even if we lose the bigger block here, we still have this little chip, this small piece, and it's basically the same material. It's just a smaller size, if you can see that. Can everybody see that? So this is a wood chip right here, a chip off of this block right here. Now what's interesting is we can take an idea like this and we can get a bit more interesting with the way native speakers use language. So right now I have a physical chip off of this block here. So I have a chip off of this block, just like it fits right in over here. If I can keep dropping this, it's so light. This is really light, light wood. So if I can fit it right back on here where it goes, and I take this chip off of the block, but I can also talk about people in the same way. So I could talk about, for example, my daughter. She likes to draw. So I also like to draw. I don't really do much of it now, but when I was younger, I drew things a lot. You can see my really bad drawings on the board here because I'm not such a good drawer anymore. But when I was younger, I was pretty good. But my daughter is like a chip off the block, a chip off the old block. So in the same way that this larger piece of wood is like a physical thing, we've got this block of wood and we've got this little wood chip over here, a chip off of the block. I can also talk about people in the same way. Isn't that interesting? So this is a way that natives become a lot more, we're able to use the language in interesting ways by taking something physical like this, and then we use it in what I call more figurative ways. So we take something like a chip off the old block. I'll write this up here for you. A chip off the old block. So I'm using an example here with a block of wood, but I could do the same thing with a block of marble, or a block of stone, or a block of anything else, even a block of ice. So anything where we've got just kind of a mass of something, like a large square or rectangle, cube kind of thing. But again, the idea works in the same way. So what I'm doing here is demonstrating number one, the way natives learn language, but number two, that the thing you can do actually before you speak is to become certain about the words and phrases and grammar and anything else that you know. So typically what happens when people are learning languages, and I'll just give you another quick example of this, like you could say my daughter. Let me remove this. So my daughter is a chip off the old block. So it means my daughter is similar to me in some way. So we both like drawing, or we both like watching movies, or we both do something that's very similar. So some people notice that like I could look a certain way, like I have, let's say I have orange hair and then my daughter also has orange hair. That could also be a same or the same kind of thing. So she's a chip off the old block. Or I could describe a couple of things and people might describe that in the same way. Sounds like a chip off the old block. All right. So what's happening here, typically when people will learn, like if we have a vocabulary lesson, for example, we might begin with the vocabulary itself right here and maybe get a few examples of it. But if you don't really feel certain about what you're learning, it's a lot more difficult to speak. And so what I call certainty first, so certainty first language learning, this is where we're really trying to make sure that we understand something very well before we use it. So instead of trying to speak to gain certainty, we want to gain certainty first so we can speak. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So when you are learning vocabulary or grammar or anything, I want you to think more. If you want to speak, if your goal is to be a confident communicator, try to think more about how you can get certainty by getting more examples or seeing more people using things, or just in general understanding things more deeply. So in this case, I don't want to just tell you a vocabulary word and give you a quick example. I want you to understand why we use this, because lots of adults especially, they need to understand things like that. Maybe children are usually more accepting of language. So they might hear something and think, oh, okay, a chip off the old block, chip off the old block. And they understand the situation where we might use something like that, but they don't really understand the origin of it. And so often as adults learning, we need to take a bit more time and think more like that. So when you're learning something, just like this physical example here, I have my little chip off of the old block, and my child or somebody else could be like a student or something like that, could be like a smaller piece or another similar thing to the origin or the place it came from, a chip off the old block. So remember the very simple thing that you can do, whether you're trying to speak for a particular situation, like you have a job interview, or if you're just trying to talk with people in general, you can get lots of certainty and feel like you don't have to feel 100% confident, but basically we're looking for a way to cross this gap between kind of typical language lessons. So we're over here, standing here, and we really want to get to the other side over here where lots of people are actually speaking. But the problem with lots of traditional learning or traditional methods you might do is you kind of have a separate environment or a separate situation than what we have in the real world when people are communicating. So if we try to jump, like let's say I learn something and then I try to jump here, it's a lot more difficult. But if we can have a bridge that actually takes us step by step over here, it's a lot easier. So becoming certain first allows you to take these steps to learn more about the vocabulary before you speak. So you'll never be 100% perfectly certain, and that's okay. I never know what people are going to talk about, but I still feel ready and confident when I do have conversations in English or Japanese or whatever. So think about this. Whatever you're trying to learn, there is usually a way to get that information or learn more about it beforehand. Like an example would be watching other people having job interviews before I watch or go into a job interview myself. So I want to see other people in those situations, not just learning the vocabulary, but actually how they communicate, how they take these words and use them together. Hopefully that makes sense. So, very simple thing you can do for anything you might want to learn. You might be trying to learn maybe specific vocabulary, or you want to understand grammar better, whatever that is. You can get more examples and feel certain first without having to try to practice a lot within conversations. All right, let's go back and check comments. As I mentioned, this should be a pretty quick video. Look at that, 10 minutes. But if there's anything I can help you with understanding this, we're really trying to get certainty before we speak. That way we feel a lot more confident when we're in conversations. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you have anything you're uncertain about, let me know and I will do my best to answer those questions. All right, we'll go back very quickly. Joel Menezes, see you there. Ildar, hey there. Drew. Renee says, greetings from Brazil. Ben says, hi. Vincent, hello, professor. Just so you know, I am not a professor. I don't have a degree for teaching, but I do know how to help people get fluent very quickly. And part of the reason I do this, or part of the reason I'm able to do this, is I know how to make people feel certain about language before they express themselves. So you can do this yourself, or you can have someone like me help you. But the basic idea is, if you can feel good about your English, feel confident and certain about it before you speak, then you will have a lot more maybe just enjoyable conversations, or even just enjoying things like watching movies and TV shows, because you will understand them a lot. Let's see, we got Anima there. Anima, huh? That's an interesting name. Hello, hello, hello. Since my girlfriend suggested this channel for me a year ago, my English is getting better. I even copy when you speak in English. Very thankful for not getting me out of the zone, or for getting me out of that sound, not dev zone. Nice. Well, is your girlfriend a native speaker, or she's just also a non-native and suggested the channel? But thank you very much. Give her my love. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, Haney, nice to see you there. My great teacher, good lesson. It's my pleasure. Good morning. Nice to see you again from somewhere I can't read. I'm guessing that's Chinese. I can't read it up. The non-developing zone. Yes, hopefully I have helped you. But if you have, try to think about specific things you've done or that I've helped you do. Let me know, because that helps me improve the channel. Joel Menezes, that phrase could be used when a father and son are alike when it comes to their physical appearance. Yes, exactly. So I could talk about, my father has a nose just like mine, or eyes just like mine, or even my own kids, like my younger daughter has I don't know, some people say my younger daughter looks more like my wife. So she's like a chip off the old block, for my wife. But my older daughter has more of a kind of peanut head like I do, kind of long and thin head. So she's a chip off the old block about that. So you could have some things that come from different people, or like a physical trait. So how you look, a trait. So a physical trait. So something like how I look, or how I don't know, something about my behavior, something like that. Or it could be something I do. So I like, I don't know, building things, and my daughter also likes building things. So she's a real chip off the old block, a chip off the old block. Let's see, the Desert Snacks, Dessert Snacks, hello from Minnesota. Fabio, hello, a bagger. I think you mean badger, but it's okay. I will forgive that. Idelio says, Ideldo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hello, teacher. I want to learn English with you because I want to speak English like you. I live in Brazil. Well, there you go. How are you using English in Brazil? Is it necessary for you to learn English so you can use English every day, or are you learning for some other reason? GH says, hello, watching from Japan. Look at that. Glad to see more people from Nippon. Alexander, hello. Drew MMG says, how to speak fast, teacher. I fully understand English and good at speaking, but I can't speak fast like journalists. I guess it depends. I would have to hear your English in order to help you better. But in general, for the videos I've made talking about speaking quickly, it's often when you know the language really well, you unlock faster speech. So again, what we're talking about here, about being certain about your language even before you communicate, these are things that will help you not only just improve your fluency, but also improve your speaking speed. So we want to get faster. Like right now, I'm speaking a little bit more slowly, but I could go faster. I could speak faster or blend my speech together. But the thing you should focus on is making sure whatever that kind of bottleneck is or block, And it could be something specific for you, although if you tell me more about your situation, I can help you with that. So we call this a bottleneck. So if you think about a bottle like a drinking, just like we have a bottle here. So this bottle has a pretty small neck. Usually we have more of a neck on a water bottle, or a wine bottle. But a bottleneck, this is the thing that's actually stopping the flow, like the speed in your case. But it could be maybe you're unsure about some grammar, or you just don't know enough vocabulary, or you're not processing things quick enough. But if you speak quickly in your native language, but you do not speak quickly in English, then probably you can figure out a specific reason why. But it's usually, if you think about what's actually stopping you, for example, I can't use certain grammar, or I can't think about things quickly enough, or I'm still trying to translate in my head. Think about what those specific issues are, but there are lots of fixes for those things. So without knowing more about your situation, that's the general advice I can give you. Let's see. Hello, good morning from Alex. Hello from Japan. It says, Chaco, nice to see you there. And Doa says hello from Sudan. And Mikita says hello. Mike, your daughter takes after you. Yes, you would say takes after you. That's sad. Oh, no. And you would say just joking, J-O-K, like J-O-K, not jocking. Jocking, that's a completely different thing. Eamon says, hello, everyone. All right, Joelman again. I like the nursery rhyme, Wednesday's child is full of woe. I've listened to a few examples of usage of the word woe and connected to the word misery or self-victimization. Yes, you could have like making those connections right there. And the more connections you make, the faster you will speak, the more fluently you will speak. Yes, you will be more certain about the language, and so you will use it more confidently. Fabio again, Brazilians don't speak English often. Yes, that's why I was asking. But it's interesting because I have many people in Brazil, or many people in Brazil follow my channel, join my programs, and I'm happy for that. But I'm always curious how I can help them better. So why exactly they're learning. Maybe they just want to because they're interested in it, or maybe they have to communicate online or something like that. But let's see. And Jolman says, like, woe is me. Do you know this? Yes, I do. So woe is me. It's like I'm feeling typically sad for myself, or I'm just like, what am I going to do? I feel very depressed and sad. Woe is me. Woe is me. Yes, this is a phrase that many native English speakers know. And Kakito says, hello, Tanaka sensei. Now, I don't use Tanaka sensei when I go out. I just use Tanaka, but still. Let's see. Hasanur says, I'm from Bangladesh. I am trying to learn speaking for English for quite a long time, but still can't achieve that level. And again, what people are trying to do is they're trying to move too quickly from learning things to speaking. And so they make lots of errors, and it causes lots of trouble. And this is the same thing I did when I was trying to learn other languages, or even trying to learn Japanese before I became fluent. And I talked about this actually in, I think, the previous video. So like if you go to my channel on YouTube, you can see the previous video. What is that one? That was that's surprising slang words. So we talked about how lots of learners are very interested in moving beyond their level too quickly. And we talked, I guess I can mention this idea very quickly again. So one of the big reasons why people get stuck is because they only know this much amount, or whatever, this kind of the information they already have about English. These are the things they know well. They're feeling certain about them. But they're trying to jump out to all this other stuff too quickly. And what you should be doing instead is just expanding your circle enough each day, or however often you're learning, that you can learn new things with the information you already have. So you want to expand maybe to something where you know like 80 to 90% of that vocabulary already. So if I know all of the things in this circle, and now I'm maybe watching a video or reading a book or an article or something that has some of this vocabulary and some new things, If I can understand these new things in the context of the story without trying to use a dictionary or get someone to give me a translation, that will be a comfortable way to expand quickly to know things better. So I'm not trying to jump all the way out here where there are just too many new things. It's like trying to do a science experiment when you have too many variables. So if I'm trying to grow a plant, I have my little plant pot over here, and here's a little plant growing. This is not very good. I said I was a pretty good artist before, but I forgot how to draw. Anyway, we imagine this is a plant in a pot, and I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, do we need more sun or more water or some other, nutrition or something for the plant? If I change all of these things, then I don't know what was actually helping that plant. Yes, I know Tom is very... This is the plant right here. This is just the pot, and this is a little, the little tray for the water. So if I'm comparing all of these things at the same time, it's impossible for me to know what is actually making that plant better. And in the same way, if I try to start learning, like if I start speaking a whole bunch of Japanese to you right now, unless you already know Japanese, then you're not going to understand everything. So the point is to make sure you're understanding and you feel confident and certain first, and expand this circle slowly. So often when I find people, they're asking me questions about things here on YouTube and saying, I know a lot of English, but I'm still not speaking fluently. It usually means you don't actually know the language as well as you think you do. You're lacking certainty. Okay? So the point is not like, I used to talk about this. I made a whole video about these different levels of understanding that we go through. Because often I will say to learners, do you really understand the things as well as you think you do? Like, do you really understand something? And it occurred to me that it was much better to just talk about being certain, because certainty is like a light switch. Either you have it or you do not. So up until then, you're uncertain. So you can think about this. I used to explain it in this way. In the book, I do not. So I just really talk more about certainty. But I can give you this example here in this video. I think it might be helpful for people. But you can think about going from 0 to 100 up here, where you really understand particular words or phrases. And you do get fluent in particular words and phrases. That's why you can probably speak fluently about some things, but not others. So we don't really get fluent in the whole language. We get fluent in pieces of it. We understand things or we do not. So you might hear a word for the first time and not really know what it means. You're kind of certain about it, but again, like we talk about kind of understand or being kind of certain, like I'm kind of. So when I talk about these different levels of understanding that people go through, I think it's more helpful to just talk about when you're feeling certain about something. So the truth is, a lot of people know vocabulary quite well. So let's say this is 80% over here. And if you understand vocabulary 80%, then you can listen to me and follow what I'm saying, but maybe still not speak, because you still have some kind of doubt about vocabulary or pronunciation or usage or something like that. So this area over here, the doubt that you feel about communication or vocabulary or grammar or pronunciation, whatever that is for a particular word or phrase, this is the thing that stops you from speaking. So if you can understand, this is why, again, people understand. And when I was trying to tell people for a long time, oh, you just don't understand completely. And people think, well, wait a minute, Drew, of course I understand. I can follow every word you're saying right now. And I say, well, are you certain about it, though? So it's much easier for me to just talk about being certain about vocabulary. So you need certainty typically to speak, because most people are not going to say things unless they feel certain that they will speak correctly. Certainty is a big part of life, not just for language learning, for anything. I talk about this in the book as well, so that will be coming out very soon, the first version of it, which I'm excited to release. I've been working hard for you all. I think people will really enjoy the book. It will really change the way a lot of people think about language learning. But the core idea is really certainty first. So making sure you feel certain about vocabulary before you speak. And the great news is that you don't have to spend a lot of time talking with people to do that. So just like I gave you at the beginning of this video, this example of chip off the old block. So I could just tell you some example vocabulary or give you some sentences, and maybe you would understand that, but we really want to make sure people can understand things and have certainty about them. So understand them completely, and really certainty, it doesn't need to be like perfect. It's just making sure you feel confident enough to get into conversations. Okay? So a lot of people, they can understand but not speak. So they understand maybe 80%. They have enough certainty to follow what I'm saying. And that's because it's easier to listen to people than it is to speak. Because when I'm speaking, I have to think about what I'm saying and also make sure I put my words together correctly. But when you're listening, you don't even need to understand every word. You just understand the general idea I'm talking about. So if you do understand every word, that's great. But even if you do not, you can still understand, but still struggle to speak. Okay, so the problem is, like, instead of just explaining it as different levels of understanding, it's more about just, do you feel certain or do you not? So you should get more information or more examples or something that let you feel certain about the vocabulary, and then you speak. Okay, so you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to speak, or if you don't have anyone to speak with, don't worry about it. It's just very easy for you to find more information. And another way to think about this is that you're doing it already, I'm guessing, in your native language. So let's say you hear a song on the radio and you like listening to that song, or you have a favorite artist or something you listen to. You've probably not met that artist in person, but you can sing the song, maybe not perfectly, but you can sing it pretty well. Or if you hear ideas in books or TV shows or whatever, a lot of that is just you receiving that information. And the point is, when you feel certain about something, that's when you can start talking about it. All right, so you're already doing this in your native language, and the point is you can do it with English. So I don't need to get personal vocal coaching to sing a song. I'm not a good singer, but I can probably sing something if I hear it from the radio. All right, and with a little bit of practice, kind of by myself, or if I'm learning new ideas by reading an article in some science magazine or something like that, I don't need to physically do the experiment in order to know something. I could, but I don't have to. All right. So we'll go back through a couple of other questions over here, but hopefully these ideas make sense. The purpose is, can we get certainty first? And we usually can, especially now. When I was learning Japanese, I don't know, I started learning 20 years ago now. So I came to Japan in 2003 and is now 2025. Oh my goodness, I'm feeling old. But when I came, like, YouTube was not even a thing back then. YouTube is from 2006, I think. But even then, like, I couldn't go to YouTube and get a whole bunch of Japanese lessons or whatever. But now, the nice thing is, I mean, I don't really watch Japanese lessons on YouTube. I prefer to actually just watch Japanese people speaking in different situations. And so how do I talk about this or how do I talk about that? I can just see people actually doing that, where I could not really do that before. Certainly you can do it in person, and I have done that in person. Like, I'll sit at a park and just listen to people talking, or I sit in a cafe and listen to people talk. I kind of spy on people a little bit just to get those language structures in there, but that's how I figure out how the language works. All right, where did I leave off here? All right, gentlemen, if so, could you give me a situation where it can be used? Thanks. Or was that woe is me? Well, and again, like, this is an interesting thing, Jolman. When you hear vocabulary, don't try to go from vocabulary to situation. Try to think about situation to vocabulary. So as soon as you hear something, think about where did you hear that? What was happening? So we're trying to get you to think more like a native, and that way you will think about the vocabulary and use it without having to translate. So often people will ask me questions in videos or emails like, what does this word mean? And I will say, well, think about it like a native. A native doesn't say this word means this. They usually think, in this situation, I'm using it in this way. So like a native speaker is actually thinking about that because words often have multiple meanings or even completely different, like disconnected meanings, like the word bark. So if someone asks me, I've given this example before, it's a simple example, but a very good one for making sure people understand. Mike, yes, the context of this. If someone asks me, Drew, what does bark mean? I would think, okay, when do people use that? When do people use that? So in what situation is what I'm thinking, because there are different uses of the word bark. So I could be talking about the outer skin of a tree, the bark of a tree, or I could talk about like a dog barking or something like that. But again, that's why we're not trying to think about just the word by itself. When you hear a word, try to think about when you heard that or what was happening, what was the situation. So when you think about a word or an expression like woe is me, if you search for that on YouTube, if you're trying to work backwards from some vocabulary, if you don't have any context or any situation idea at all, go onto YouTube and search woe is me. Look at the kinds of things you're going to find. You'll probably find sad videos or people talking about complaining about stuff, that kind of thing. So again, I'm not trying to be lazy about not giving you an answer, but if I can teach you how to think about this like a native, it will be much easier and faster for you to learn. Okay? Let's keep it moving. All right, 30 minutes so far. I'm going through these comments here. So Shine, hello teacher. Shine is in sunshine. Yes, thank you for reminding me, but I got it correctly. I got it. Hi everyone, I'm Fernando from Chile. Nice to see you there. Poor me. Oh no, Fabio. Hope you're doing well. MG, thank you so much. I appreciate your response. I think my brain isn't processing fast enough. I think a lot before speaking as I'm kind of a perfectionist. I prejudge myself. Yes. So this is often a common thing. People are worried about the language and also worried about how they think or what other people will think about how they sound. And like right now, I'm doing this video live, and I do these videos live in part because I want to show you what it's like to communicate without having to plan anything. So I'm trying to demonstrate that for you. And I could think, oh no, is this the best way to express that? I could make a video, like plan out a video and write it the way I'm writing my book. So I'm taking time to be thoughtful and make sure I say every word correctly, but you don't really have to worry about that. It's more about trying to make sure, especially when we're speaking, that we're just keeping the flow going. We're enjoying things and making sure we can connect with other people. We can always find better ways to express things. So we can think about that forever. Okay, what am I going to do? Am I expressing things the exact best way? But I often remind people, again, that there are multiple correct ways to express things. That's another good reason to get Naturally Varied Review, which is lots of good examples of people saying things. All right? So that's another good way to get certainty that I talk about in the book. But remember, we're not trying to be perfect here. We're just trying to keep conversation flowing. And so it's better to be certain about a few things, even if you're not confident about everything. Be certain about a few things, and then you can build on that, because those connections will help you make connections with new things. Tom says, morning, and Mike says, make mistakes is embarrassing, but it's good if you learn from them. Yes, but I like to say it's okay to make mistakes, or, find other people making those mistakes first and learn from their mistakes, or even just to get lots of good examples of language before I speak so that I don't have to make a mistake. So do I still say things incorrectly sometimes in Japanese? Sure, but I make mistakes in English as well. So I might say something and maybe use the wrong word or something. I'm not exactly expressing myself well. I no longer worry about that because I have, in general, certainty about how I express myself in Japanese. So as I learn new words, I continue to expand my circle, and that's how I'm building that fluency in Japanese as well. Let's see. Who did I miss over there? Mohammed says, hey, hi teacher, I'm from Morocco. I want to ask you about the real definition for being fluent in English. What does that mean exactly to be fluent? Well, for me, being fluent just means you're able to do things without having to hesitate or translate or think about things the way a learner would do something. So you're able to process the language very quickly. Like right now, I'm speaking fluently because I don't have to think about translations or hesitate. Like, is that grammar rule correct? Or am I using the right pronunciation? There's a difference between having to think, like I could be a fluent speaker, but still try to be more careful about my words. But that doesn't mean I lack fluency. So again, fluency just means you're able to express yourself without the typical things that stop learners who are speaking. All right, so it's like keeping the flow of something, and I'm able to keep the flow. I could speak faster, or I could speak more slowly. I could even take more time to think. I could think like, somebody asks me an interesting question and I take a moment to think about it. That doesn't mean I'm not fluent in the language. I'm just taking time. But I'm not making the kinds of mistakes or having to struggle to connect things the way lots of other learners might be doing that. All right? So if you're not fluent, you're typically not certain about what you want to say, and that's what causes all the trouble. So that's why you might have maybe worries about saying the wrong thing or grammar mistakes or other things like that. It's because you lack certainty. That's it. Let's see. All right, I got Tom's over there. Fabio says, do you miss America? You mean America, like being in America, the country? Sometimes. Maybe I'll go back eventually, I guess. I'll think about it. I enjoy Japan, though. All right, C says, hi. Let's see. Yes, we got the shokubutsu over there. And MMG says, that makes sense. I'm not certain, says Tom. Yes, remember, we want to be specific about this, though. We want to be certain about things. So when people often think, they begin with a big, scary problem. It seems unsolvable, like, I can't speak fluently. And I'll listen to that and think, wait a minute, like, there probably are some things you can speak about. You know, maybe we have these couple of things here where you do have certainty. And once you get certainty, when you feel confident about expressing yourself, then you can speak. So the problem is not certainty or like a lack of fluency in general. It's just focusing on particular things you want to talk about and then getting more examples of those things or whatever you need to feel more confident and fluent. But that's usually because you're getting certain about that by getting more examples or other things. I've covered this in many of my videos, but that's what I'm talking about in the book. But this is the basic idea. So if you have a kind of general idea like I'm not certain or I'm not fluent, it's usually because there are specific issues you have, and usually those specific issues are solvable. All right, exactly, to internalize or personalize the new words to feel certainty. Yes, so the point is when we learn something, we really want to understand it well, and often, even if we can make what I call, these aha moments where we discover something, we understand how it works, we make connections, we still need more examples to make sure we remember things. So you could have an aha moment where you suddenly realize what a word means, but forget it later. All right, so it doesn't mean you're you're stupid or you have a bad memory or something. This is just typically how it works. So you still need some more examples, usually, after that happens. So I talk about this in the book as well. But again, yes, you're correct. We're talking about certainty. All right, Tom says, please hit the like button right now. Very nice. Well, thank you, Tom. Let's see. Piero says, I am Piero from Haiti. Nice to see you there. Can shadowing another, just see is asking about shadowing. Sure. Like you can copy people, but again, like let's say I just start speaking some Japanese right now. Like today I went to the store and I bought this and I'm just speaking some Japanese. You can try to repeat after me, but is that going to help you get fluent? So like shadowing is nice, it's useful, but the more important thing is, do you actually feel certain about the language? So I don't want to just repeat people. I really want to internalize that, like we were just talking about, making sure I really understand something. Because if I do not, then I can't speak about it. Okay? So shadowing is nice, but it's less important than really feeling confident and certain about what you're learning. Let's see. So let's see. Okay, happy to be there with you. And Tom says, makes sense. And Chronogo says, do you speak Japanese or English with your kids? I usually speak English with them. I try to speak more English at home, even if I'm just talking with my wife, so my kids can hear those examples as well. But they get less time with English, so most of their day is in Japanese, so I want to make sure I can give them some good aha moments and read them stories and help them understand things. So I have to be very efficient with how I teach them, but it's good. I know how to teach pretty well, so I can do a good job at home even when I don't have much time. I'll use Japanese with them sometimes, but I typically teach English in English, or maybe we'll talk about some Japanese thing in Japanese. So again, see, okay, can shadowing what you were saying increase understanding? Well, repeating things doesn't really improve understanding. I mean, like let's say if I show you a word, let's say, what's an interesting word? I'm just like blanking, trying to think of like just a random word you might not know. What's a good word? How about quibble? Quibble, Q-U-I-B-B-L-E, quibble. Yeah, halt is a good word, but you probably know what that means already. So let's say I teach you a new word. I say, okay, class, today we're going to learn the word quibble. Let's just repeat after me. And if we're shadowing, you're kind of talking after me, repeating after what I'm saying. Are you going to understand the word better if you just repeat it? So from that example, if you don't know what quibble means and you're just repeating after me, you're not giving yourself new information. And it's multiple examples of things or a better explanation that really helps you feel certain about what it means. And so I could talk more if I want to actually help you understand the meaning. Quibbling is typically where we're getting into details about what something means. It's not complaining, but it's more like you think something means this, I think something means that, and basically we mean the same thing. Like if we argue over little differences, now we're quibbling. We're just talking about like little things that are insignificant. It's not really important to talk about these things. They don't really matter. So we're quibbling about that. So my explanation, or giving you some more examples or helping you understand it like that, that is more useful for understanding things than shadowing me. But shadowing is helpful after you already understand something. All right, so it's less useful for understanding. In the same way, repetition is less useful for understanding. If I just say the word quibble, 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 it actually becomes like a nonsense word in your mind. Your brain is just like, okay, stop telling me this word. I don't understand what you're saying. But if I can help you understand it, then that repetition, and typically with naturally varied reviews, so I hear different people using the word in different contexts, then I really feel confident and certain about the word. Okay? So if I use it like in a sentence, or I give you some other examples, like now we're quibbling. Okay, so then I feel, okay, like you believe this about, it's like if I'm talking with someone about what fluency means, and they're like, well, fluency means this, and I say, well, like I think fluency means this, and we're basically saying the same thing. If we argue about some like little point that's maybe not necessary or important, we're just quibbling. Okay. So again, you can see examples of things from the situation. So I'm trying to create the situation and then go to the vocabulary. But often what happens with learners is they will just get random words, or they will hear something somewhere and not really take a moment to think about, wait, what was happening in that? So that the other video or another video where I give that example of my daughter asking me, so Aria, my older daughter, was asking me, Dad, what does harsh mean? And if I just give her an example, like, okay, harsh means this, like a definition, it's less useful for her than if I say, well, where did you hear that? And she's like, oh, well, I heard somebody was yelling at someone else and the person said, don't be so harsh. And I think, oh, okay, well, what's happening? You know, somebody is yelling at someone, they're doing something kind of mean or rough to that person. Maybe they were using some harsh language. If I'm outside in the harsh sun, I probably need some sunglasses or maybe a hat or some sunscreen. Or if I'm washing my hands with harsh soap, I can start drying my hands out and my hands will get cracked over time. Or if, like today, we have some harsh weather where there's lots of snow and lots of wind, some harsh weather like that. So as you get more examples of the thing, you feel a lot more confident and certain about it, don't you? So you can do this before you speak. So even though you're not speaking with me, I can help you develop more certainty. I can trigger that certainty in you, and you can also do this yourself. All right, let's keep rolling though. So anybody asking specific, like, should this method, or should I do this or do that? The most important question is, does it give you certainty? So if you're asking me, Drew, should I read a book to become fluent? I will say, I don't know. Does that book make you feel more certain? If it does, then keep reading it. Great, you're feeling more certain. You will probably speak more confidently. But if it does not, then do something else. All right. Let's see here. All right. Hassaner says, thank you so much. Tom, 2003. What's the chip example again, please? Just go back and watch the beginning of the video when this one is done. Do you stare at them? Do you stare at them? You're old, still handsome though. I'm old. What do you mean old? Old. Sam says, great Mike says context. All right, Chrono Ghost, let's see. Saise is an interesting word in Japanese. The core meaning is the same, but it can be used in different situations. Yeah, and so many words are like that. So you might have like a meaning where you have like one meaning like atama. So we could talk about my physical head, or I could talk about like nigatsu no atama, like the start of the month in Japanese. And again, like English words work in the same way. So we often have multiple meanings, or some words can have a figurative or a physical use, just like I talked about chip off the old block. Situation, words, not words, situation, a good way. We'll try it. Yes. And again, this is a very good way to learn all of the vocabulary or grammar or whatever before you speak. So you don't have to spend a lot of time speaking. I'm sure there will be people in the comments or even in this chat where they say, who wants to meet to practice speaking? You can do that, but I'm showing you an alternative that's a lot faster and easier, because you don't need to find people to practice speaking. You just need examples of real spoken English that you can understand. And so if you can do this systematically, you can really get fluent much faster than most people think is possible. Let's see. Abdurrahim says, I tested my speaking skill and got a 6 in band score. How to improve? You'd probably lack certainty, I would guess. And you will notice this is a theme in a lot of my videos, where you have doubt about things, you're uncertain about the language, and that's why you struggle to express yourself. That's basically it. So thinking about whatever the issue you might have, if you just say, how do I improve? It's like, well, try to get more specific, especially because I can't hear your speaking, or I don't know so much about your situation from a quick chat. But you can think about where you struggle. So like in my case for Japanese, I think, I'd like to have maybe more examples of things I understand at my level, with some new things. And so like I don't have a program like Fluent for Life for Japanese. I've not found anything like that. So I have to create that in a way with just the content I use. But I do my best with what I have. And Shine Again said, Drew, I can understand almost 90%, 99% of what you were saying, but when I watch Netflix, I feel like I'm dumb. I only understand 78%. I really want to know how I can move forward. So remember, shine as we mentioned before. So we have these levels of content, and this is at the end of my book. One of the chapters I'm working on right now is again talking about this idea of the learning environment. So we'll just say learning and the speaking environment is over here. And so the learning environment, like right now, you're listening to me, it's slower, clearer. The vocabulary is not so difficult, so probably you can understand a lot more. But if you think about the speaking environment or even watching something like Netflix, it's like a whole different world. It actually sounds like a different language. So people are speaking faster, or maybe they have different accents, or they're mumbling, so they're not speaking clearly, or they're just using lots of conversational English that you don't know. So you don't have to feel dumb for not doing that. It's just like you have to take steps to get from here to there. So if you only watch learn English language videos on YouTube, you're going to stay stuck here, and it will be very difficult for you to try to jump directly over here. So this is why lots of learners, they try to spend time watching videos on YouTube about learning English, but then they try to watch a movie and it's like a completely different world. So it really is a different language. So what we do in Fluent for Life, or what I recommend whether you're in that program or not, is you need to get more examples of things that help you build that bridge to the real situation. We want to get as close as we can to gain as much certainty and confidence as we can before the conversation. Okay? So you don't try to learn and then jump into what we call the deep end of the pool. So most pools, I'll draw kind of like the pool side like this. So the pool is like this. We have our pool here, and then whoop, and it goes down like this. So here's the top of the water. And so people start over here. This is the language lesson area of the pool where, I can stand up and I don't have to swim around. It's pretty easy. It's nice and clear and comfortable. But often learners then, even before they can swim very well, they try to jump in here, and look at that. They're in the deep end. They're in too deep. So this is the shallow end of the pool. This is the deep end of the pool. Usually doesn't look like that, but it's something like that. You get the idea how there is a shallow part and a deep part. And it's nice if you can actually have a bridge that gets you from this to that, like swimming lessons in a way. So don't feel bad. It's just typically how people learn, where they're missing all of this. For most people, it's either just learning in that learning language phase where you're getting clear examples from teachers and the lessons are comfortable and easy. So what I'm trying to do in these videos on YouTube, it's more trying to explain to people how to learn. I do teach some English, like I did in this video about chip off the old block, teaching a particular thing. But I'm really trying to encourage you to watch things other than me, like native English speakers talking about the things you're interested in. So yes, like what Mike is talking about, we need some diving or just swimming lessons. You don't even need to, go like dive deeply into the deep end of the pool. It's just here you don't have to swim, but here you do, okay? And so most people, they go from this directly to this. And so we call this like a sink or swim situation. Sink or swim. So a teacher says, okay, here's the language lesson for today, class. Now go out and practice that in the real world. And so you're out trying to speak, but it's overwhelming. The language is it's maybe too many things or whatever, and so they drop you in the deep end of the pool, and hopefully you figure it out. But lots of people sink, and that's the end of that. They don't want to learn languages anymore because it's just too frustrating. So this is the typical way that people are learning languages, and I'm trying to offer an alternative, which is a nice, comfortable bridge that gets you from this to that. Okay? So that's a big part of my book. Will be coming out soon, but I'm talking about that idea. But it's very simple. All right. Let's see if I can get through these last couple. They keep piling up here. Let's see. Namal says, excellent teaching from Sri Lanka. Thank you. And C says, can we simply write down keywords in main word and that'd be like as, bark, tree? Well, do you do that in your native language? That's another way to think about this, where when you learn new words in your native language, do you have a phrase book where you're writing these things down? Like, okay, you know, this person says as, and that means this. And like, no, you're not doing that at all. I don't have a phrase book in English. I mean, maybe when I was a kid, I had to do that for language classes, but I didn't really think about the language that way. I was integrating the language by getting new examples and feeling certain about them. And that's all you really have to do. And so when you learn a word, it's not like, okay, we learn a word like as. A native speaker learns as, and typically with one situation. So their first time they hear a word, it's like, you are as big as your brother. You hear that a lot from people, like as, you know, big as someone else. And so people hear that, and this is a particular construction that they remember with a kind of situation. What they're not doing is thinking, oh, I heard the word as, now I need to figure out every usage of the word. Nobody is doing that in English. They're figuring out something, one usage of a word, and connecting that with a situation. And then they might later find some other usage, like he works as a teacher. And I think, oh, that's interesting. Like someone uses the word as, but in a different way. Okay, so we're not thinking about like a particular word or phrase by itself. It's always connected with a situation. So this is another thing I talk about in the book, where we're trying to think about this like a native. Would you do this in your native language to learn your native language, especially as an adult? Probably not. Now, you might have to, if you're in a class or trying to learn specific vocabulary, like for becoming a doctor or whatever, sure, you might do that. But in everyday life, most of the new things you learn, you're able to integrate them easily because you already have a strong network of things that you know. You feel certain about what you're learning, and so new things will come very easily to you. So you don't have to spend time like shadowing people in your native language. You're not writing things in phrase books. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're just trying to make sure you understand it. Okay, that's it. And as you learn more, once you feel certain, then you speak. So even in your native language, there are probably things you hear, like I can't speak with confidence about difficult, I don't know, like biology stuff, because I don't know so much about it. I can't talk about fixing cars because I don't know much about it. I don't feel certain, I don't feel confident about talking about that. It's not because I lack fluency in the language, it's because I don't know anything about that particular topic. All right, could I learn? Probably. I could, go spend some time with mechanics fixing cars or watch YouTube videos about fixing cars. That's how I would do that. So if I want to be certain about things, it is possible to do that. But we don't want to worry about kind of typical things like, like the meaning of an individual word just in a vacuum by itself without connected to anything else. So always be thinking about words with something. It's always that situation, because natives are always going to think about that. They're going to think, when did I hear that? In what situation was a person using language? Taco, nice to see you there. What is your ratio between reading and listening? Which one should I spend more time to become fluent? You don't need to read at all to become fluent. It's useful if you can. Like my speaking ability in Japanese is way better than my reading. It's the opposite, actually, for a lot of people who learn languages the traditional way, where their reading ability is better than their communication ability. But for me, it's not about like listening or reading. I try to do both. So I try to hear an example of something, like I talk about this in the book as well, how I might listen to an audiobook version of a children's book, but I might read that book myself too. So I'm trying to get more multiple examples, that naturally varied review that lets me understand things automatically. So if I'm not thinking like, should I read or should I do this, or even having like a particular ratio, it's more like, for this particular thing, what would give me certainty? So for example, let's ignore language learning for a moment. If I have we can use a color example, but let's say I have some food. I have like a new kind of fruit. You've never tried it before. This is like a space fruit. I bring it from a different planet. Now, would you rather read about the fruit, or would you rather listen to me talking about the fruit to understand it? Or would you rather just try the fruit and see how it is? In this case, the thing is not about reading versus listening. It's just, what do we get certainty fastest from? And in the like the food example, I'm just going to try it, and that's the fastest way to get certainty. So often when we're trying to learn things and we're getting review, we might need multiple examples from different media, like we're reading something or listening or trying to watch a movie, something like that. But I wouldn't worry about rules about like specific, I don't know, ratios about things you need to understand, like learning in a particular way. I don't even really talk about that much in the book. I have like a kind of different set of rules. It's more about how you should think about language learning so you can get fluent much faster. Right, and MMG, how do we know that we have enough vocabulary? What would be a good indication for me to know that I have a good vocabulary bank? Well, I'm not worried about how many words in Japanese I know. I don't even know what my vocabulary is. I don't know how many words. I've never taken a vocabulary test, I guess. I mean, other than the level 5 JLPT example or test, and that was many years ago. But the size of your vocabulary is less important than how certain you feel about your words. And often if you talk with, like, I could bring up a bunch of adult English learners and a bunch of kids who are native speakers, and the kids are going to speak way better, even though the adults probably know more words. So don't focus on trying to build a vocabulary. That's a mistake lots of people make. It's a mistake I made, and often people do this. And I go into more detail in this about this idea in the book, but there's really two things here. The first part is that people are ambitious. They want to be impressive. They want to show other people that they can speak well. And I understand. I want to be like a confident speaker too. I want to have good conversations with people and express myself. And it's kind of like when you're learning to play a guitar or something. At first, you're awful. You're trying to sit there and practice it, and you imagine yourself impressing your friends and playing the guitar like a rock star or whatever. So those are the things you think about. And so often, especially in language learning, because you can jump directly to learning more difficult vocabulary and more complex sentence structures, you try to focus on that. And a lot of people do this, but they end up not actually speaking very well because they don't even know the basics very well. So that's a big problem. The other part of this is that people typically don't want to review because it's boring. So if I go through and learn something, it's much more entertaining for me or interesting to continue learning new vocabulary than to really become certain about the things that I already know, even though that's a much easier and faster way to learn. So your brain is kind of tricking you a little bit, and that's why I use naturally varied review, because we want to make sure if I just repeat something in the exact same way, it's going to get very boring for you quickly. But if I can tell different stories or help you hear things from different teachers or different people, different natives, then you're going to feel a lot more certain and confident because you actually enjoy the learning process. You're getting lots of examples, and working together, all of those things help you feel much more confident about the vocabulary. The repetition is what's going to kill it for you. So lots of people get stuck. Either they're trying to be too ambitious or do too much, or they're still trying to continue moving forward because it's just boring to repeat things. So you don't have to do that. The learning process doesn't have to go that way, but often that's what happens to many people who are learning. All right, I feel like I'm not catching up to the comments over here. I need to go faster. Let's see. Julian says, hi, teacher, and people here, greetings from Colombia. What does Drew mean? Well, it's short for Andrew. I think Andrew just means strong. I think that's the origin of it. It's like a biblical name, I guess, but I go by Drew. But also like to draw something, it's the past tense of draw, which doesn't have any connection to my name. But to draw something, like I'm drawing a line, or we might have a drawer. Like I'm teaching that to my kids, like we have a dresser with drawers in it because I'm drawing something out, like I'm pulling the drawer. Let's see, bow or bow, or I don't know which way you're asking about there. Let's see, and why fun says, hi Drew, morning. Sam says, how to pronounce correctly, because most people can't pronounce correctly. If you're interested in pronunciation, you should get Frederick. Just click on the link in the description below this video for that app. You can teach yourself pronunciation the same way natives learn it, but you will actually discover things and be able to compare them yourself. So we go through the same order that natives are typically using, but the nice thing is you get to actually discover and compare things yourself. So you really learn pronunciation very quickly. Of course, the app will also teach you vocabulary and pronunciation and grammar and things like that. But if you'd like to learn that more like a native, click on the link in the description. Wife, and again, can I improve my fluency if I keep watching your video repeatedly? So I just mentioned about repetition initially, like watching, let's say you watch this specific video. At first, you watch it one time and you'll get some good information from it. If you watch it again, you'll get even more good information. But maybe like by the second, third, fourth time, if you repeat the video, then it's probably going to be boring and you will not want to review it again because it's the same information over and over again. So you will discover new things each time you do it, which is great. But again, instead of just trying to do repetition, we use naturally varied review. So rather than watching me like a long 1-hour video, you find some short clips on YouTube talking about, a particular topic. So whatever you're interested in, let's say you like baking and I want to learn how to bake cookies. So I watch a bunch of YouTube videos about how to bake chocolate chip cookies. If I watch 10 different short videos about that, I will improve a lot more than I would if I just watch one long video, because I want to hear how a variety of people describe things or see how maybe recipes are a little bit different, how people explain things differently, how their pronunciations are a little bit different. This is how natives learn the language, but we're taking that to a higher level by doing it systematically. So a young child might learn how to make chocolate chip cookies from their parent. But for you, you can actually control that and get lots of different cookie recipes and see how all these different people are doing it. So yes, it's valuable to repeat things. I'm not saying repetition is bad, but typically your brain is just not interested in doing it. So we have to motivate the brain to work with us, and that's why we give it new content. So the brain thinks, ooh, it's a new video. Even though we're still talking about chocolate chip cookies, it's a new person, it's a new example situation or whatever. So that way when people are going through things, it makes more sense. So yes, repetition and review is useful, but naturally varied review is much more powerful. All right, I'm going to try to get through these over here. See, again, my bad. I was meaning to ask you because fluency by shadowing. Yes, again, like shadowing is more about improving for, like developing particular like skills in maybe pronunciation. You want to refine things, that kind of thing. Let's see. And Chaco says, I try to speak English, but my mouth doesn't move well. Does that same problem happen in your native language? What do you mean your mouth doesn't move well? Stuart says, where, I don't know what that word is. Lux says, good morning, sir. Where's the wood in your mouth? Where's the wood in your mouth? You missed the beginning of the video. Got to go back and watch it now, and you will find out. Lucas says, I'm only an English teacher today because once years ago I started watching you. Thank you. Well, awesome. I'm glad to hear it. If you like the video, please like it. Share the video with other people. Let other people know that we can help them. Bai says, why would people still memorize grammar rules instead of learning directly from situations? Good question. Number one, lots of people don't know this is possible because that's not how they're taught. Number two, most people don't need to use the language. Well, I won't even say most people don't need to use the language. I don't know if that's true. But I will say for people learning languages in classrooms, you typically don't need to speak. So it's much faster and easier just to memorize rules so you can repeat things on a test. So if I just have to look at a multiple choice example, like here's a grammar point, like a gap filling exercise, what is the missing word? And I see the different examples there. That has very little to do with speaking fluently. So that's why people continue to do that. Now, I still think my way is faster. Even if I were in the in the classroom teaching, I would still teach the same way. But again, that's the main reason why people don't. I think maybe when my book is released and more people can find out about these ideas, they will think, oh, wow, like this actually makes a lot of sense. And I think more people will start adapting their programs as a result. Let's see. Where do we go here? And okay, you guys are talking about the pool example. Mohammed, why English in movies is hard as a native speaker when you watch? Is it not hard, faster than real life? Yes, we talked about this before, how there are basically two different kinds of English. There's the English you learn in English lesson videos on YouTube, and that often keeps you stuck in this slower, easier version of English. So teachers are trying to be understandable, but the problem with that is that it makes it more difficult for you to understand real spoken English. So you need to have a bridge to get you to that because it's a different kind of English. It's like me, if I try to learn Arabic and I'm in an Arabic classroom and the teacher is speaking very slowly and clearly, and then I go outside, I'm just around a whole bunch of Arabic speakers, and I'm just overwhelmed. Like, I don't understand what everybody is talking about here. It's a different environment, so you need to be prepared. You need to get ready for this in stages, and especially you need to prepare for it this way because it's a different kind of practice. Because in the real world, speaking is unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. So you can't prepare by memorizing scripts or by trying to, memorize particular word lists or grammar rules or whatever. It's just not going to allow you to respond quickly enough. That's the problem. Julian says, today I had an interview for a job offer I received through LinkedIn. The interview was conducted by a woman from India. Difficult, but thanks to you, I've improved a lot and passed the interview. Awesome. Great work. Let's see, how to buy your book in China. If you are already a member of my email list, you will be notified. I will be releasing version 1 pretty soon. This will be a digital version. I really want to make the book, it's kind of a collaborative thing. So I want to release it and have other people read it and let me know if everything makes sense or if some things are too difficult or if I need to put even more information in there. But it will be available digitally first. So just wondering, will your book be free or will it be paid? Yes, it will be paid, but it's like a few dollars. And if you can't pay a few dollars to learn 20 years worth of valuable content in like one simple idea, then I don't know what to tell you. But yes, it's like a lot of work goes into this, and you will get a tremendous amount of value from the book. Let's see. I can answer this question for Brew. Goods free is not good. Yes. So another reason to actually sell the book is because I want people to read it. If they think okay, here's just another free ebook, like a log into my email course or whatever, get my free ebook, people will probably not read it. It could be the exact same information and people will probably not. What you're saying is 100% true. We see many people who are born blind and still become great writers and speak fluently just because they acquired the language through listening only. Yes, I mean, it's more difficult. If I'm trying to learn a language without seeing, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, it would be very difficult, and there are probably many things that even if they can speak about things, they don't really know what they're talking about. Like describing what things look like would be much more difficult. I guess says, how are you doing? I'm focusing on a single word at a time, like take in, take away. I feel confident, but I forgot. So do you think I should focus on speaking so I can't forget? You don't necessarily need to focus on speaking, but I don't know exactly what kind of examples you're getting. But if you notice lots of examples, like it sounds like you're focusing on phrasal verbs, like we do in our visual guide to phrasal verbs. If you're looking for lots of examples of those, that can help you speak. But if you're spending time just like, I don't know how exactly you're learning, that makes a big deal though. Miguel says 10 go free whole less and el cool low. I don't know what that means, but Angie says, thank you so much for answering my questions, teacher. I truly appreciate it. Glad to hear it. Ganesh says, hello, learn and grow. Is this class only on Wednesday? No, it just happens to be today. I'll tell you a very quick story about why I'm doing this video today. It's kind of an interesting language learning example, but so tomorrow or last Saturday was supposed to be my daughter's sports festival. So in Japan, there are these like high school and elementary school and junior high, even kindergarten, they have a kind of sports day where the kids have races and they march around. It's kind of a military holdover thing, but it's fun and it's good for team building. So it was supposed to be on Saturday, but because of rain, it was moved to tomorrow. And I was asking my wife a couple of days ago. I said, "Well, I'm going to be probably recording on Thursday, but maybe if it's raining on Thursday, they might change the day. So what do you think? Should I try to schedule it for Friday instead?" And my wife said, they're probably not going to move it earlier, so do it earlier. And I thought, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. Like instead of doing it later, I could do it earlier. And so that was just like a simple shift in thinking, but that's why I'm doing the video today rather than the usual Thursday Japan time where I'm making these videos. But it's another good example where people can often try to do something one way because that's the way they only know, or the only way they know, I should say, rather than trying to think about things in a different way. So that's part of another reason I'm releasing my book, to show people that there is another way to get fluent. All right, I'm trying to get acquaintance with the new vocabulary through constant repetitions. Remember, get variation. All right, Islam says, hello, I really enjoy watching. Glad to hear it. Please click that like button. Do you think ChatGPT is good for practice? I don't really use ChatGPT much for that. I will sometimes ask ChatGPT questions about things, but I have to be very specific about how I learn with ChatGPT. Is your book available in Japan? It will be digital first. So if you're already on the email list, or I'll put a link when I actually have it available soon, where you can find the book, and it will just be available worldwide because it's digital at first. But I look forward to having an actual physical print version. I don't even have a cover. I just want to release it very quickly to get more people reading it and get feedback on the ideas. Julian says, to me, it doesn't seem like you speak slowly in English. You speak at a normal pace. What's happening is that we're just getting much better at listening and understanding. Yes, that's partly true, but also I'm being very careful about the kinds of vocabulary I use. So I'm intentionally trying to speak a bit more slowly and clearly. I'm still speaking like a native, so I could still talk with natives the same way I'm talking with you right now, and people wouldn't think I'm speaking in a funny way or a different way or anything like that. But the more important thing I'm doing is being careful about the kinds of vocabulary I use. So I'm not using movie references or lots of idioms or difficult phrasal verbs that I think people might not understand. So I'm trying to make sure I communicate very clearly. But yes, so it still sounds like regular native speakers would speak at a pace like this. But typically I'm faster and I'm making jokes and references and other things. But usually that depends on the person I'm speaking with. Mike says, thank you, teacher, for the class. It's my pleasure. Compass says, hey there, how do you learn idiomatic and colloquial phrases? Well, you begin with situations and see what natives say in those situations. We says, hello, teacher, what do you think about Ling Q method? I don't know anything about that. But try it, and if it gives you certainty and fluency, then fantastic. I don't know anything about that, though. Joanne says, reading the book you're about to release, does the content same in Fluent for Life? Well, it's not like a language textbook in that way. So Fluent for Life gives you actual lessons where you're using the principles of the book. So people who are already members of Fluent for Life, they will enjoy reading the book because it really shows why these things work and why it's useful to do it and how you can get even more information on your own. But it's not like the same kind of content. It's a different thing. It's more talking about the principles of learning and an alternative way to get fluent that most people are not aware of. So that's what'll be in the book. Anyway, look at that. We got to the end of the chat. Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm already losing my voice a little bit sooner than usual today, but feeling good and very glad to have been here with you. I look forward to releasing the book. It's been great testing lots of ideas. Many of these live videos I've been doing have been trying different things and explaining things in different ways because I've found over the years there really is a good order of things that need to be explained to people for them to really make that switch. I'm really trying to give people a transformation with the book. So I'm trying to change the way you think, and probably a lot of people watching this video or my other videos in general will already be understanding we're really trying to get certainty first, and that it is possible to become fluent even if you don't live in an English-speaking country or spend a lot of time speaking. So just like me, I don't really speak that much Japanese in my day. I speak when I need to, when I'm in situations, but often I'm not spending very much time speaking. But I'm still getting lots of good input that can help me understand the language well. But the point is I'm doing it systematically to make sure I really feel certain about what I'm learning. All right. Looks like we have one more comment that popped up from Jack. Hello, I'm 16 years old and I study English every day, but now I'm B2, but I need to improve my listening fluency. I want to know all conversations on the news without subtitles. How can I get this fluency? Jack, go back and watch this video from the beginning, but also you will enjoy my book a lot. And people like you who are like in a similar situation where you can understand things, but you really want to get to that fluent level, the book will show you how. All right, have a fantastic day. Oh, look at that, from Brazil. More Brazilians here, very cool. Very ambitious as well, very good. Make sure you get certainty about the things you learn because that's what will help you speak. All right, have a fantastic day. If you'd like to learn more about how I can help you do this, if you're already excited to get started and you're not a member of Fluent for Life or you don't have Frederick either, click on the link, both links in the description below this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye, and thank you, Febe, for posting your comment. See you next time.